and this shows sort of my version of what entrepreneurs need to be successful. And obviously I feel that the number one issue is a thorough, polished business plan. Although I think we will agree that number 4 here is actually would be a really great way to start, but none of us really have that. If you have all the money, you probably don't have the patience. So I gave you my perspective on the importance of a business plan, but I venture to guess that many, if not most of you, have the perspective that a business plan is just something to write to get cash. In fact, the business plan or an executive summary is the first thing that people will ask for if they're interested in your company. While you can create that 1 to 2 page executive summary without putting the plan together, you can actually really cover all the bases by constructing the executive summary at the end of after you've defined the business concept. And all business plans that I know of, and I've seen a number of them, the ones that really are successful always include sections on the opportunity, the product, the technology, the market, the competition, intellectual property, a business model, the management team, and most importantly, an exit strategy. And while the substance and methods are different, basically that formula works for every business plan out there. And just to go over it, this slide shows some of the reasons why you need a business plan. Business plans have both internal and external value, and it's pretty obvious from this slide that there's a significant internal value. Having a solid plan enables the company team to move quickly forward by communicating the priorities, and actually those are defined early on in the development of the plan. And one useful part of any business plan is the SWOT analysis, and I talked about that earlier in a previous webinar. And with that SWOT, you can identify strengths and weaknesses of your organization, as well as the opportunities and threats to your business. Having that business plan allows you also to easily integrate new personnel. You give them everything they need to get up to speed with the goals and the overall thrust of the company. Most importantly, however, if you periodically pull out your plan and review it, you can provide a basis for measuring the company's performance relative to the goals that you set when you first put it out. Externally, the main value is that business plans are a vehicle to attract and solidify relationships with investors or potential partners. So what are the objectives of business planning? And note that I do not differentiate the business plan from business planning. Basically, business plans are forward-looking. They attempt to forecast the course that the company will take. And similarly, they forecast risks so that the company can plan to avoid them. Also, they really foster communication. Initially, that communication is between the founders, and later it's with the investors. All business plans also establish milestones and clarify what the company needs in terms of capital and personnel. while we're on this, this is just a note about business planning during the pandemic. And I put it in here because biotech companies are generally pre-revenue. So they fund their research and development from capital. And during the pandemic, they will be going to investors for financing. So you may have to formulate immediate actions in responding to the challenges in obtaining financing. And it's also important to develop tactics to move your R&D effort forward while many facilities may be closed or unavailable. Okay, so there's no magic format. You just use a traditional structured approach. And those will go through all of the steps one by one. But within the structure, there's plenty of room for you to present evidence of a sound business opportunity. That's one of the key points, to present a clear plan for how the opportunity will be realized. And lastly, to show the financial benefit to the investors. That's the whole enchilada, so to speak. So another question that comes up oftentimes, what's the scope of the business plan? How long a term are we looking at in terms of a biotech business plan? Well, biotechnology investment is long-term. And the time frame, the period of time from when the company initiates until it exits, it is quite different from some businesses, for example, software or IT companies. The time frame to an exit, particularly for a wet biotech company, is measured in years and not in months. And traditionally, the scope of a biotech business plan is 3 to 5 years. And that is dependent upon where the technology is to start with and how long it's going to take to get it to market. By the way, a business plan can either be a whole company plan, or it can look at being a separate plan for R&D and a separate one for marketing. In my standalone company, we used to do formal written yearly plans for the board of directors, which had seats for our major investors. Interim reports were also made orally at individual board meetings, which were mostly internal, but on a regular basis, we actually looked at aspects of a business unit plan and compared it overall to our goals. So what are the key research questions? I emphasize that putting a business plan together is a research deal. Lost the word there. So what are the research questions? Well, this slide actually outlines the real questions for both the company and for potential investors. And therefore, each of these questions need to be answered in your business plan. Very, very quickly, is the product viable? Who are the customers? Who's the competition? What is the market like? Who's on the management team? And what are the future needs for both capital and what are the financial goals? And lastly, what is your exit strategy? So now we come to the real fun part. We're going to actually start skipping through the individual sections of a business plan. So, okay, so you right at the top of the document, you have an introduction, and it should start off with a short summary. And this is not the executive summary. This is a different section, and it should concisely state what the company will do, and what its products will be. There also should be a company vision statement, and that's a concise 1 or 2 sentences that everyone in your business knows and can speak to other people by heart, essentially. And then there's the mission statement. And I used to say that there's only been 3 or 4 mission statements. Most of them were written by Harvard Business School graduates. But essentially, all the mission statements that are really effective really elegantly present the company's vision a little bit more in detail than the vision statement will. And the mission statement also should not be too rosy. So you know, something like we're going to be the first billion-dollar company making widgets doesn't necessarily work well as a mission statement. Okay, the opportunity section discusses the reasons for starting the company and why it can succeed. The primary question is, how will the company efficiently generate a significant profit? And beyond that, what is the product that you're selling? Who are the customers? What is the size and the growth rate of that market? And then you need to understand what criteria do customers use to determine which product that they're going to buy, yours or competitors. And then why is that competition not a significant barrier? And one thing is when you get to the opportunities section, if and only if your potential investor is not familiar with biotech, particularly something like looking at a new drug or a brand new kind of nanotechnology, it may be important to outline some of the broader aspects of the field, such as healthcare reform, whether or not something needs FDA approval, and that you should also address as when you're getting to why your company can be successful, sometimes in a market where there are other competitors. Well, in biotech, technology is usually the product or the service, and oftentimes the founders believe that technology is the only important element to the investors. But that's only partly true, and we'll get to a little bit of that later. Nonetheless, you really need to describe your technology in enough detail that experts will both get and appreciate how it works. The failure to do that may cause knowledgeable readers of the plan to doubt your credibility. And I can assure you that any investment group will either have the capability in-house or will engage a consultant to review your tech. With my first company, I had multiple half-day meetings to discuss our technology and research and development excuse me, in great detail with outside experts that were brought in. So one piece of advice I can give you also that's important is that investors may request you to disclose everything about your technology. So you should have a CDA in place to protect you when you divulge trade secrets. Many of the potential investors are really looky-loos. They may even have connections to your competitors. So in reality, you as a company, and actually most serious investors, will want to protect themselves as well. And we'll either have a one or a two-way CDA in place. And if they do not agree to work under a CDA for a particular conversation, then I would do my best to make a presentation without sharing any confidential or proprietary information. We now get to another area of protection, that's intellectual property. And this section should summarize essentially how the company will protect the IP that enables them to commercialize the product and actually keep competitors at bay. If a company does not currently have the IP it needs, then it will have to develop a way to describe the licensing or filing strategy to make someone else not block your freedom to operate. And this slide lists a number of questions that actually need to be researched and addressed, and they're as follows. So what patents protect the technology? To whom do they belong? When do they expire? Because patents expire, right? And how can they be used to block competitors? Many biotechs spin out of universities, so you may be able to license the patents you need from the university. I really don't want to spend too much time on this, but let's just say that usually licensing benefits both the spin out and the university. Oftentimes, a university patent is available for exclusive use, and they like the royalties that a patent that they filed and spent some money on eventually will bring in some royalties to the university. One point I want to make is that if you do get involved with the university, I would try to get a broad right to improvement agreement, and that covers any improvements that you make to the original patent. And this agreement should be based upon the date that you finalize the agreement. That's done so you don't really need to renegotiate every improvement that you make over time. And obviously, you can pay a lot of money to get your product protected. But by doing much of the research itself, back to research, right? You can get a reasonable assessment of whether you can file a patent. It's also fairly easy to do a patent search, and you can just go online. There are several different online services. Some of them are free, some of them have a small fee. If you went to an IP professional, that fee to do a very significant search also has a very significant price tag. You can even file a provisional patent application to establish prior art, and these don't really cost that much. You can put one together with not a really substantial amount of effort. There are some websites that actually talk to you about how you can put together and file a provisional patent application. But I'm really not a patent attorney, but I've worked with at least 3 different large firms. And in every case, it comes down to the more work that you do, the lower number of billable hours you will pay for. And those billable hours come with a pretty good price tag. All right, competition. Well, how many companies' commercialization plans or executive summaries that I've read say that there's no competition for their product? If I've seen one, I've seen 1,000. There's always competition. If no company offers exactly the same product or service as you do, there's still the status quo that you have to overcome. Think for a moment. If there are really no competitors, why have other companies not pursued your target market? Perhaps it will be difficult to create or enter the market. And if you do create a market, you have to expect that competitors will enter it. Therefore, defining your competition is an area where you really need to do your research. You will need to develop a profile of significant competing companies, describing their technologies, their products, their business model, their pricing, their current customers. And you have to explain why those companies are successful or unsuccessful and why you can do better. I can guarantee you that if you do not do a good job researching what the competition is, your potential investors will. People, people, people. So now we come to a key point. As this slide indicates, many investors consider the team behind a startup more important than the idea of the product. The investors will want to know that the team has the right set of skills, drive, and experience, as well as the temperament to grow the business. I mentioned needing the patience of Mother Teresa. You really do need a different temperament to grow a business than to work in a laboratory. Anyone putting together the team section of a business proposal should anticipate these questions, really. Who are the founders and key team members, obviously? What relevant domain experience or experiences do the team members have? What are the key additions that are needed in the short term? And what will be needed eventually in the long term as you get closer to full-blown commercialization and eventually an exit? And why, and this is really important, why is this team uniquely capable to execute the company's business plan? To put it simply, it's the people. And investors don't invest in ideas, they really invest in people. And you need to focus on business leadership as well as the scientific and technical expertise. From a practical sense, you need to include short biographies of the management team. Add to that scientific advisors, and if you have a board of directors, you should also use their, I guess, status as part of this section on the management team. And at the end, you should add resumes of each of the founders and members of the managing team as an appendix. The worst thing that you need is to deliver a business plan where you have CV after CV of the the team members. You have to keep those biographies rather short, and then use an appendix to add any CVs. Let's see. Oh yeah. You don't have to do all the work on a business plan alone. You can use others to do some of the heavy lifting. You're really going to need people to do research, particularly on comparables. And what you might want to do is to bring folks from outside the organization with specific expertise into the mix around putting the final business plan together. Many incubators, I think we have at least one here today, and accelerators as well have staff to help you. When I was building a business in North Carolina, their biotechnology center provided me with market research tools, including access to rather expensive industry reports. They provided advice and introduction to business experts, IP professionals, and potential partners even. And since many of the founders are more savvy about technology than familiar with business, there are also groups of retired entrepreneurs that can help you put the financials and business model on the right track. So from the very beginning, find a brainstorming group, bring in the advisors, and use whatever help and whatever resources are out there to put the best business plan out there. Yeah, really, despite the commercial success of several biotech companies, and actually the stunning growth in revenues over the last couple of decades for this industry as a whole, really, most biotechnology firms earn no profit. And that's why so many of them fail, actually. The business model section really describes in detail how you will make money. And it needs to take all of the areas indicated on this slide. There really is too little time to discuss business models in any detail. But this is an area where external help should be acquired. Actually, if the model that's chosen is correct, along with information on comparables, it should actually help you to estimate the revenues and expenses for the first few years. The model should take into account what do you offer the customer? How is the value created? Who is the customer? Yeah, who, right in the center, right? Who is that? How is the value created? And how is revenue generated? And that leads us to the financials. And you got to remember, investors are looking in a return for the investment that they're going to make in your business. So financials are used to document, notice document, justify, and convince the investor that this is a real opportunity. Unless someone on your team is a CPA or a Harvard MBA, usually advise entrepreneurs to seek outside help with the financial section of the business plan. Most, if not all, of the investors that you meet with are well-versed in business financials, so they can easily evaluate that aspect of a business plan. They will know when revenue predictions are too rosy or when production costs will severely cut into profitability. So make sure that you research relevant comparables. I really want to emphasize the relevant. It's hard for a fledgling company to compare themselves with the GlaxoSmithKlines of the world. So both cost estimates, the number of employees, comparables, and other data should be developed, and that should be shared with the finance guru. Again, if you have an outside financial consultant, they will probably charge you by the hour, unless you're lucky enough to be able to work with a volunteer or somebody that's associated with an incubator or an accelerator. The more you do, the less that's going to cost you. For someone, when you're paying somebody the hour, that cost is dollars. When you're paying when you're using somebody who's a free resource, what you're doing is costing that person time. So the more that you do, the better this process to go. I'm gonna just show you an example of a 5-year financial profile. And it goes through revenues, cost of sales, margins, expenses, income, capital expenses, how much equity you raise, how much cash you have hand. And as you can see at the bottom, the number of science staff that's increasing over that 5-year, projected to increase over that 5-year plan. You might, depending upon how this is all constructed, you might have sales staff, whatever. But this is just one example. And when you're putting this business plan together, you might also want to provide a 12-month profile for the first year. And that could be more granular, breaking down expenses into labor, supplies, lab space, rent, really get down into the nitty-gritty. And it'd be a month by month for just the first year. And that's typically seen in most business plans. So now we're coming near the end, and this slide goes into really one of the challenges that a business faces when it matures. And you can really understand how investors feel about an exit strategy if you consider what happens to investors who don't get exits. If there's no exit, they don't have a return on their investment. So you're going to need to do some research to find comparable exits and strive to get as close to your business size and model as possible. Again, work with your financial people to project what your company's valuation will be at an exit. That's certainly going to change along the way, but return on investment for technology-based biotechs is really not as great as a return on investment for pharmaceuticals. So you really got to get that comparable value, to put that, you have to get the proper comparables to put together what the valuation will be at an exit. And again, you have to avoid comparisons to the exceptions. I think in terms of exit strategies, it used to be that many companies used to feel like they were going to go all the way. They were going to go all the way from the initial technology idea out through manufacturing, licensing, all that other piece. And really, exit strategy for biotech has really changed. The exits are much earlier. Remember from the earlier slide in terms of the fact that most biotech investments are fairly long-term. Investors actually get nervous as the years go by without them seeing any return. So there's a lot of pressure to exit early, and that exit can be any number of ways, from outright sale of the company to partnerships. Yeah, I wouldn't let anything go by without pointing out that every section of a business plan represents a potential source of risk. And you should do everything you can to prevent evidence to minimize the perceived risk of an investment. I say that your writing style should be aimed at minimizing the risk the reader will perceive. And by that, I mean, don't be cocky and overpromise that you're going to be a billion-dollar company. Do your research, find comparables, get help. And in areas where there's high risk, discuss the contingencies. Lastly, we come to what we call the executive summary. Few people read a business plan before they read the executive summary. And the executive summary must really entice the reader to ask for more information, yet it must discuss the opportunity and technology in the market, the competition, the IP, the business model, the whole business plan in 1 or 2 pages. And the only way to really get it right is to write it after you've put the whole business plan together, and then you can pick and choose exactly what you want to include into an effective and enticing, sexy executive summary. It's really important. So I'm going to end with, business plans are really only good as the research that precede it. All of the sections require some level of research, and that's from the introduction to the exit. And the good news is that most of you really know how to do research, but really, seriously, where you're out of your depth, get help. And there's plenty of help out there. Consultants, accountants, state programs, your management team, incubators, accelerators, and the guys at Science Docs. Plans are really nothing. Planning is everything. That's from Dwight Eisenhower, former president of the United States. And it's, there are no truer words, I think. The plans themselves don't mean anything. The process really is everything. And with that, I'm going to take whatever questions are out there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bilello. Yeah, so if you have any questions for us, please put it in the Q&A section or in the chat box. So the first question we had was, why is it important for the vision statement in the introduction to be one that everyone in your business knows?
It's sort of like somebody says, well, what does your company do? And you could say, well, we make widgets. But if you have a nice, succinct, concise way to tell them, well, you know, most companies really, you know, talk about having the next great cure for cancer. We have always looked at the possibility of a world without cancer. That may be more of a mission statement, elegant, but it's pretty close. And it's a way that everybody in the company that's out there talking to folks actually has the same set of words. It just, trust me, I'm a doctor. it really works well to have this formulated and not have people making it up as they go along.
I know, I guess earlier in the presentation, you slightly mentioned that a lot of biotech companies tend to fail or don't go through fully. I guess what other like recommendations or tips can you give for our audience if they're trying to start their biotech company?
Well, again, I think the biggest tip I can give anybody is that there's a lot of help out there. You know, this is not a solitary kind of a exercise. It's an exercise where not everybody has the expertise to address specific sections. And the other thing is, you know, when you get a group together and you're going to form a company, early on, people have different ideas about what the company is really going to look like. So having those brainstorming sessions early on, where you can come to a consensus about the product, where you can come to a consensus about what the market really looks like, where you can do that all-important SWOT analysis, where you can identify what your strengths are. Those kinds of exercises, where you know, you can do it maybe just the founders come together, but oftentimes this is really good to do with some input. I said one of the businesses that I had after I left GSK happened in North Carolina, and in addition to there were resources from the state there, you know, but one of the greatest resources was an incubator where you actually got a chance very early on to present your company in a very short 15-minute or so chat with other folks sort of in the same boat as you were, and also with some of the real gray-haired people, sort of like me these days, although I guess I didn't, let me see if I didn't even put myself up. Yeah, oh, he looks so good. Anyway, you know, us gray-haired guys, we really can be really valuable. And, you know, sometimes having a group of folks just come together uh, and and ask you some questions, may get your whole team focused on areas that you didn't even think about. So that's my biggest tip. Don't do it alone. Actually work with folks to really put your business on a broader perspective, not just you as a small group who think this product is the best thing since sliced bread, but get some people who don't eat bread to give you some feedback.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Can you elaborate on the broad rights to improvement for the license? Would this scare away potential investors?
Give me that again, Sam.
Yeah, so it was a question. Can you elaborate on the broad rights to improvement for the licenses? Would this scare away potential investors?
No, because this is actually an agreement that you make with the university when you're going to license out a a patent from the university. So investors don't even have to come into the picture. And in actuality, it's just going to save you time, and it's going to save you lawyers by making it clear that, yeah, we're going to make some improvements, and any improvement that we make from that date, if that leads to increased revenue and we have to renegotiate royalties or whatever, we will do that. But we will either share those improvements with you in terms of an increased revenue stream, or less likely, we're going to just we're just going to, any improvement is ours, and that's we don't care what you want. But it's just a matter of every time you're going to go and negotiate something with a university, they have lawyers. You have to hire lawyers. So that's all I'm really going to say. Somebody who deals with IP issues, especially around university systems, is probably the best person to talk to before you go into an agreement with the university.
So financial projections seem like fairy tales except for known costs. So they seem like minefields when one wrong step means instant death. How can one ensure that this doesn't happen?
Um, well, let's look at the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, and there are a lot of really good business plans that are right up in the air right now. You can't basically guarantee that the financials that you provide today are going to be in effect 5 years down the line. It's almost impossible. But what you can do is you can, develop the business model, develop the comparables, take a look what's out there. There are other examples of companies that have been successful, maybe not in your field, but maybe in other fields that are somewhat similar, that you can actually use as a basis for those projections. And to be honest, very few investors are going to come to you and say, well, in your business plan that you wrote in 2020, you said by 2025 you're going to have $6 billion a year in revenue. No investor is going to do that. They're going to be involved in your process as you go along. They're going to understand that things change. Just look at, well, I know I'm being a little bit long-winded, but just look at reimbursement. A few years ago, you could get an incredible amount of money for a particular molecular bio-based assays, you know, a small panel or something like that. Now, that same panel, the reimbursement, usually from the Center for Medicare Services or other institutions are cut way back. And what you could get 10 or 11,000 for, well, maybe that's a little high, but you could have gotten several $1,000s for. Maybe now the reimbursement is only a couple $100s, and you can't figure that out in 2020 what's going to happen with reimbursement for that same product or test or whatever 5 years from now. You just can't.
So some of the attendees are asking if you happen to have like a good example of a business plan. Do you have one that you could possibly share, or do you know any resources where attendees can look at to see a good example?
Oh yeah, there are about a gazillion. just type in biotech business plan and examples, and you'll come up with a number of different sites. I was trying to think if I knew a good URL. Off the top of my head, I really can't give you a good one. And obviously what you want to do is you want to find something as close as possible to get something fairly close to what your business actually is. And like I said, there are gazillions of them out there. And and there's no magic format. I should say two things. The first thing is, whatever you do, before you send that business plan out to anybody, make sure that you run your spell checks, you get your favorite grammar Nazi to go through it and make sure that the grammar ain't so bad. You really need to put together something that's going to represent your business well. I went through the individual stages. Basically, that should be a pretty good guide, but you can take a look at some of those online, and you'll get a pretty good idea in terms of length and perhaps substance.
So we have time for one last question. So one of the audience members said that they had pitched their business to the investment people, but they said the amount that the person was requesting, they felt it was too small. So what should they do to get a more realistic startup funding?
Well, one thing about putting a company together is never leave any money, potential money, off the table. You have to get as much as you need. The best way to get insight into that is, again, putting the plan together and having a coach. Yeah, I just thought, that ULP probably has some really good people that can help guys that are involved with your organization. But there are groups like this all over the country, and this whole thing about how much you need is really based upon how much other people have needed to get things going. And one good thing about incubators in general, and I want to say incubator and accelerators because there are people that differentiate the two, but let's just say incubators. One thing about incubators in general is that they usually have people at different stages of maturity of a company. There are people that you can walk up and say, well, how much did you need to get this project started? And you may find somebody that perhaps is very much like your organization. You might find people that are nowhere near like your organization, but they can always give you advice and get all the free advice you can get. And then don't be afraid to pay for really good advice when you need it.